Bucks 0 for 3, flew out to deep left his last time. Swings at the first pitch, grounds into the right side. Cronenworth has it go off the glove into right field. Hernandez rounding third on his way. He will score. And for the first time tonight, the Dodgers lead. It's 3-2.
That's just bad luck for Cronenworth. This ball actually goes through his glove. He's walking off the field right now to get a new glove.
Hello and welcome everybody into the Skraby Show for Wednesday. I believe it's Wednesday. Yes, it's Wednesday, March 20th. Appreciate everybody being here with me today. If I was up early with all of you, you have to stay up late with me, and late being 7 p.m. by the time this show's over. But again, I just want to thank everyone for coming out to 7 Mile Casino, and I want to thank everyone for making this morning really, really awesome. And I just got to say, we had talked about this leading up to it. How many people do we think are going to be there? And I thought there was going to be a strong contingent of Padres fans and 97.3 the fans there. But I didn't have any idea that there was going to be as many people to show up, or at least attempt to show up, as we had this morning. So thanks again, everyone. I met a few of you out there, and I was really happy to meet some of you. I met M. McKee 23. I met Jacob. I met Tom. I met Luis. I know I'm forgetting someone else, but I'm really sorry about that if I forgot you. I definitely enjoyed getting to meet all the Skrabinators out there. And it was unfortunate that we weren't able to get a Skrabinator pick, but we will. At some point, we'll have some sort of thing to get a Skrabinator picture. But that game this morning was good until it wasn't. And you heard that highlight coming back with Jesse Agler, Tony Gwynn Jr. We've talked about it, Glovegate. And I've been getting more and more requests I'm getting a lot more requests for conspiracy theories on the show. Now, we are on a sports station, so I do have to talk sports, but it just so happens today is the day for sports conspiracy theories, or conspiracy theories. And I know we had thrown this around during the show with Shohei Ohtani and what happened with his translator. We're going to get into that. But in all honesty, and being dead serious, this is snowballing rather quick. It is going downhill faster and faster. And I'm not saying that Shohei Ohtani did anything wrong, but I'm saying that we're going to find out some stuff, because there's some strange things happening with Shohei Ohtani's translator. So we'll get into that, but it is a conspiracy type of day. If you were at 7 Mile Casino this morning, let me know in the chat. Appreciate you again. Dave, I met Dave as well, so thank you, Dave. Also, let's do some roll call. Jocelyn's here, Trevor's here, Dan's here, Sir Yax is here, Jacob is here, Rudy's here. I think I already said Trevor. Annabelle is here, Brandon is here, Ken is here. Love you too, Ken. And there we go for now. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Oh, Brandon said it was nice officially meeting you in person. It was nice meeting you too, Brandon. And someone actually said on the Gwen and Chris chat that they saw me, they wanted to come say hi to me, and they were just too I guess nervous to come say hi to me. And trust me, there is no reason to be nervous coming to say hi to me. And I promise you that I am more nervous than you are. That's not a joke. I get anxiety when I talk to people, and I get anxiety when I talk to people I don't know. But I do know all of you to an extent, but please come up and say hi. You can see all of me, and I cannot see any of you. So you have to come say hi to me. I would love to meet you all. With that being said, wow, Chris. Oh, Chris from Chris and Charisma. He said, "What's up, Skraby? Listening from the DMZ tour of North Korea." That is awesome. Thank you, Chris, for checking in. I was going to say something else, but man, I would love to go on that tour of the DMZ. I got to say, and I'm still feeling FOMO of the trip to Korea, but it's almost over, so the FOMO feel will be gone. FanFest this Sunday. If you don't know, Chris and I and the rest of the station are going to be broadcasting throughout the day. I believe Ben and Woods are from noon to 2, and I believe Andy and Elston are from 2 to 4, and then Chris and I are from 4 to 6. So if you want to meet there as well, you want to get some pictures, you want to chat, just head on over to the 97.3 The Fan booth at FanFest, and we'll be there hanging out, doing things. Brianna is here. I don't know if it's Brianna or Brianna, but I said you're here. All right. With that, it is I'm working on 3 hours of sleep. So with that, we have the news of the day.
It's time to get caught up on the latest with the news of the day.
Dave says on the chat, we got an early version of Chris versus Matt over the delay issue this morning. Yes. Chris was blaming me for the delay, and I wasn't having it at 3 a.m. Jeremiah says he was there and he didn't see me. What? I didn't see you either, Jeremiah. Sergio, your number one fan from Tijuana. Congrats on the gig. You do a great job. Thank you. Everybody's being very nice today. I appreciate it. This has been a confidence boosting day for me. All right. Going forward, I want to say everything said on this show is said in jest and does not actually mean I am accusing Shohei Ohtani of anything. I wrote that down so I get that little bit of a disclaimer out there. But we're going to start with the Padres and their 5-2 loss to the Dodgers earlier this morning. Game was going really well. The Padres pitching was doing things, and the eighth inning was the floodgates, and Jake Cronenworth Glovegate had the ball go right through the webbing of his glove. Now, we just had Tony on. I'm going to play his response. If you didn't hear Tony in the 4 o'clock hour, I'm going to play you his response about what he thought when he saw the glove and Glovegate and the ball going through the webbing and all that stuff. But it was an extremely unfortunate break for the Padres because that's a double play. Inning is over. You don't know what's going to happen going forward. But I can't help but think, and I was driving home, I heard that on the radio with Jesse and Tony, and I couldn't help but think, is there anything more San Diego sports than that? That is like a definition of San Diego sports. And we'll see what happens tonight. I have a feeling the Padres are going to bounce back, but here's, in case you missed the game this morning because it was so early, the Padres, they only had 4 hits in the game. They had 2 errors, and the Dodgers had 7 hits and 5 runs in the game, no errors. But Xander Bogaerts, he was pretty good in the leadoff spot. He had an RBI, and he was 2 for 4. Now, Chris made this point earlier, and this is the crux. I've been using the word crux lately, and I think this is a good word. But the crux of the problem last year for the Padres was A, hitting with runners in scoring position, and B, it was the superstars hitting and carrying the rest of the team. Well, we know that last night, Fernando, Jake Cronenworth, Manny Machado, and Ha-Seong Kim, the 2, 3, 4, 5 hitters in the order, went 0 for 14 last night with 3 strikeouts. And I know it's game 1, and I know that things are going to change throughout the season, but I've been saying leading up to this game that the superstars are going to have to superstar. And it's not going to work if that middle part of the order, the 2, 3, 4, 5 guys, it's not going to work if they're not going to hit, if they're not going to drive guys in. I mean, runners in scoring position, 2 for 5, which is better than last year, but Luis Campisano had a prime opportunity to drive some guys in, and he did not. He hit into a double play, which was a momentum killer. Other than that, pitching was pretty good. I mean, Darvish, 3 2/3, didn't give up any runs, struck out 3, walked 3, had 72 pitches. Tom Cosgrove went 2/3 of an inning. There ended up being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pitchers in the game for the Padres, and it was down the stretch. It was tough. It was tough for pitching, but again, Mike Schultz said he was going to manage this game like it was a playoff game because they have these 2 games, then they can come home, they have a week off, and then they'll be able to reset and I guess go for it with their regular roster that they're going to be using on a day-to-day basis. So we'll get more into that. We've talked a lot about the game today, obviously, because we are the Padres flagship, but I just wanted to make sure we got that out of the way. Now, the second news story is the Ohtani news. Now, if you're not familiar with this, it just came down in the last couple hours. So this is not something that happened this morning or happened yesterday. It's something that happened today. And Shohei Ohtani, his translator that he's had for many years, he actually was fired by Shohei Ohtani today. And the reason being that the translator is allegedly accused of taking $4.5 million from Shohei Ohtani, like stealing $4.5 million from Shohei Ohtani to pay off his gambling debts. Now, my immediate thought was, this is serious business for Shohei Ohtani because you can't be associated with anyone gambling. And if you have someone in the dugout, someone who's in the know on the team, I think this is something that's going to be a little bit bigger. And I know that NY Mike 8 is much to do about nothing. That's not true. This is something, because news is coming out now that the timeline of things is getting really weird. And it's very strange that they did a news report on, or I guess ESPN sat down with his interpreter, and they did this whole 90-minute interview. And then after that, Ohtani's people came in and said, no, he's lying. That's not true. You can't print that. And ESPN was like, well, he told us that. We want to print it. Lawyers got involved for Shohei Ohtani. But there is some rumor that the money came from Shohei Ohtani's account. And so if indeed this money came from Shohei Ohtani's account, then Major League Baseball is going to have to investigate this. Now, I don't think he's going to have to sit out any games, as I was saying earlier, because it's kind of crazy for me to say that. But I feel like there's something here that they need to investigate. I'm not saying that Shohei Ohtani is guilty, but it is very strange, and we're going to get into it more in just a little bit in the next segment, because Dallas Braden's been all over this, and he's had some good tweets. If you're not following Dallas Braden on Twitter, you should, because he's great. And he's also got some really interesting information about this. So we'll get into this a little bit more. But I feel like there's something more to this story. The third and final news story, NFL news story. NFL owners are considering a kickoff change, which will resemble the XFL's kickoff. The kicker is going to kick off from the regular position, and then the defenders are going to be 10 yards away from the return team. So they're going to be on the 40, return team on the 30, and then you have the returners. Just go to my Twitter, at Matt Skraby, to see what it looks like, because we put up a picture of the XFL. But if they're going to go to this, I just say, why even have a kickoff anymore? It doesn't really matter to me. It doesn't. It's not a big play in the game anymore. I think I said this on the air. There was a British guy who watched the Super Bowl, and this is the first time ever watching NFL football, and he asked questions and saying, since it's my first time watching NFL football, here are a few questions I have. And one of them was, what is the point of a kickoff? Because it just seems like they run down the field and that's about it, which is really what a kickoff is nowadays. They're also, the NFL, thinking about changing the hip drop tackle, which is a tackle that is controversial in the NFL because it ends up injuring players a lot of the time. And so they're going to think about doing either a 15-yard penalty or something else for the hip drop tackle. But we'll talk about that as it goes along. Thanks to everybody for joining me today. There are a lot of opinions on this Ohtani thing. And Dominic says, yo, Skraby, unfortunately, dirty or not, MLB ain't going to do a thing to Ohtani. And I kind of sort of agree with that. I don't understand how you can let this go, though, if you're Major League Baseball. And so we're going to talk about that more. I'm Matt Skraby. This is the Skraby Show. Thanks to everybody who's joining me. You can watch on YouTube if you would like. Just go to 97.3 The Fan. Search that. Also, you can go to Facebook, 97.3 The Fan. And we are also broadcasting on X, 97.3 The Fan SD. Or you can go to @Matt Skraby and you can see all the retweets that I put up there. All right, more Otani talk, more Glove Gate. We have a whole show of conscrabacies coming ahead on 97.3 The Fan.
Everybody, before you
Sorry about the delay there. I was just checking to make sure that everything, I didn't miss any news on this newest conspiracy around Major League Baseball. We're not talking about Glovegate from Jake Cronenworth. We're talking about Ohtani Gate. And it is kind of serious. His interpreter, his name is Ippei Mizuhara, and he has been fired by Shohei Ohtani. I think the reason that this is so crazy to me is that he was a translator all the way up until after the game last night. He was his interpreter last night after the game, and then all of a sudden something happened where, boom, he's out. He's fired. And $4.5 million is missing from Shohei Ohtani's account, which I don't understand. There's a couple things. I've never had $4.5 million in my account, but I think I would probably notice if $4.5 million was gone. Also, if Shohei Ohtani, he's a very rich person, he has lots of money, so I'm sure that he has someone managing his finances. Where is that person in this whole thing? But I don't want you to think I'm making a joke out of this, and I'm just going to repeat it. I'm not making a joke out of this. This does seem serious to me. Because with someone who has gambling issues, which the Ippei Mizuhara said he has a gambling addiction. If someone's in the dugout, if someone's in the clubhouse, if someone's that close to professional sports, you cannot be anywhere near it. You can't be anywhere near it. And so Maria said earlier, Skraby, I feel there's more to the Ohtani story. It's a distraction from what? I don't necessarily know that it's a distraction, but I do think it's very interesting how this is being reported in the media. Robert said, is he Ohtani's fall guy? And I think possibly if we're going to be talking about this, say, in 2 weeks, there could be some implication. Implication. And I think that Major League Baseball right now are having some serious meetings on how to deal with this. Shohei Ohtani is the biggest player in baseball. He is by far and away the number one star in baseball. And this is too close to comfort for Major League Baseball, I think. So here, let me read this. If you're not following Dallas Braden, you should. He is the former A's. He's been on the show many times. He's also the color analyst for the A's. But at Dallas Braden 209, he tweeted this out a couple hours ago, and I think he really breaks it down pretty well. So Dallas Braden says, a rough timeline. Ohtani rep goes on record with ESPN stating Ohtani transferred $4.5 million himself to the bookmaker on behalf of Ippei, his interpreter. Spokesperson for Ohtani delivers Ippei to ESPN for a statement. Ippei says Ohtani never bet and felt bad for him and paid off his bet so he'd never do it again. Spokesperson for Ohtani then says Ippei is lying after he gives his 90-minute statement to ESPN. And then Ohtani's lawyers claim massive theft happened. And then Ippei says Ohtani had zero knowledge of his debt or his gambling habit in general. And that's why I think there's something here. I do. That's why. Because it turned from Ohtani and the rep goes on record with ESPN and says that he himself transferred $4.5 million to a bookmaker on behalf of the interpreter because he felt bad and Ohtani never bet. And so Ohtani paid off his debt so he'd never do it again. Number one, I can tell you right now, if you are a gambling addict or an alcoholic or anything like that, and this is kind of getting serious, but Ohtani is enabling a guy, if he's just going to pay off his gambling debts and just say, don't do it again, that actually, to me, feels like someone's going to do it more when you pay their debt of $4.5 million and then you just go on your merry way like it never happened. But this is, again, why I think that this is going to be a bigger deal. And again, I am not saying that Shohei Ohtani has anything to do with the actual betting, but I am saying Major League Baseball needs to handle this very carefully because they don't want to get caught up in seeming like they're favoring Ohtani over other players. They don't want to get caught up in a gambling mess. And we talk about gambling every day on the show, and there's a reason that we say gamble responsibly. And that reason is because people do not gamble responsibly, and people get themselves in big, big, big trouble gambling. And I've seen it firsthand. I've seen former alcoholics that go to AA and then they end up finding something else to fill that void, and it could be gambling. And I've seen people lose their families because of this. And this is it's a sad story in a way, because this just shows you how bad gambling can get. Shohei Ohtani's interpreter, who had maybe one of the best jobs in the world, going around the world with him, doing everything with him, he didn't feel like that was enough, so he went and gambled instead. It's very strange to me. And I feel like this is going to get worse. I feel like things of the gambling nature and players betting and different controversies are going to come up, because gambling is not something you just do. Gambling, I mean, yeah, okay, let me take that back. Gambling is something you just do. But when you're dealing with the amount of money that is involved here, $4.5 million, it's a serious problem and a serious addiction when you're going that far. And I feel like this is just going to happen more. Gambling is no different than alcohol. It's no different than drugs. It's no different than anything else that's bad for you. Gambling can actually really, really put you in a big hole. And no pun intended with the big hole. It's something that can easily take over your life. And I think it's slightly, as Tony would say, rich, that we are all so into gambling now. And I say we, as in the pro sports organizations, MLB, NFL, NBA, and NHL, everybody's into gambling now. So you can't just look the other way when things happen. And we're starting to see more and more of this happening. It's bad. It's really bad. Being in let's go back to the chat. Being in the dugout is bad, yes. Prolific said, I'm going to have to come back to that one. Yes, Dave said, did you hear about the threat on Ohtani before the game? Yes, I did hear about the threat on Ohtani before the game, which is really, really scary, because someone sent an email saying that they were going to harm Ohtani and everybody else in the stadium. And so they had to check into that. And of course, I'm glad that nothing happened, but still, this is the type of world we're living in right now. You can't even go to Korea and play a baseball game without getting a death threat. Let's see. Dan says almost everyone has a vice to get you through the day. Yeah. Yeah, everybody does have a vice to get you through the day. You know what mine is right now? I'm going to admit this, and I'm not going to be embarrassed about it. But I chew Hubba Bubba, and I eat a lot of gum, and that's kind of my vice. So I don't want to go drink, or I don't want to do something bad for myself. But just because you're not actually taking in a substance doesn't mean that you're not ruining your life. And gambling can easily ruin people's lives. I think I've lectured a little too much on this, but that's the latest on this. That's the latest for where we are sitting with Shohei Ohtani and the interpreter and all of that. But he has been fired, and they've been friends for a really long time. Dallas Braden even confirms the personality of the interpreter as a good guy. Says he really likes him. Trying to go back to see. Okay, so he says, so they say Ipe lied when being questioned about betting, and they also say that Ipe placed bets directly with the bookie. No details on how the theft of millions of dollars occurred. So did he just rob Ohtani to pay for his gambling habit? If so, we think this is the first time, or just the first time he got caught. It's the first time that he got caught. So we'll keep an eye on this. Marcia says people without addiction issues do not usually understand how to help. Throwing money at the problem to fix it would be an easy answer if you don't understand the real problem. Yes, Absolutely, Marcia. That is absolutely 100% correct. Like you don't have to be a drug addict or an alcoholic to say that you have an addiction because you definitely have an addiction. Addictions come in many forms. I don't know. I guess I'm just going this route tonight. But addictions come in many forms. It could be food addiction, it could be alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be gambling, it could be cars, it could be shoes, it could be wallets, it could be anything. But some are healthier than others, obviously. But at a certain point, you go a little bit too far and things get weird. Annabelle said it was wire transfers, right? That's kind of easy to trace. Yes, wire transfers. And ESPN did report that there have been some wire transfers confirmed from Otani's account. And I think it was $500,000, one of them. So I don't want to comment too much on the amount because they haven't really announced too much of that. But the chat is getting crazy right now. EST3 says, we all agree he's the fall guy, right? I don't want to go there yet. I don't want to go to the interpreter Ipe being the fall guy. I think it's a little too premature for that, and I have to be responsible right now instead of being the crazy person I usually am and go with it because we need more information. If there's anything Tony has taught me and Chris has taught me about doing this job, it's don't come out with your first thought. Make sure you have all the information. So, well, this is going to get even crazier. And when they get home, I mean, they're going to play this game at 3 a.m. and then they're going to fly back. And I think stuff really hits the fan when they get back from Korea because there's going to be some investigations. All right. Matt Skraby Show here on 97.3 The Fan. Appreciate everyone for joining me. This hour on 97.3 The Fan is brought to you by your local San Diego County UPS store. Your local San Diego County UPS store locations are hosting a shred event from March 27th through March 30th. 50% off shredding services. Visit the upsstore.com for the location nearest you. See store for details. Real quick before we go to break, if you would like to join the Gwen and Chris Bracket Challenge, no money, no prize, no data collection on our end. We're not going to sell your emails or anything like that. I put on my Twitter account, also my Instagram story, at Matt Skraby, MATTSKRAB as in boy, Y. And I put a QR code so you can sign up through the QR code. You can also click the link that's there as well. And there's a lot of people in there right now. So I think there's over 90 at this point. But you have until tomorrow morning around 9 a.m. to get all these in. So make sure that you are diligent in filling out your bracket. But you get to go against Adam. You get to go against Tony, me, Chris, and I have to look and see if anybody else from the station signed up because I'm a poor planner and I sent out the invitation link earlier today instead of when I created the league over the weekend. But if you're interested in that, head on over to my Twitter at Matt Skraby or my Instagram story at Matt Skraby. You'll find the information there. When we get back, we're going to hear a little bit from Mike Schilt about last night's game and then Daily Gripe. We'll see where this goes. Thanks for sticking with me. 97.3 The Fan. Matt Skraby, back with you here on the Skraby Show, 97.3 The Fan. Can't believe we're already in the last segment. I say this literally every day, but it does always surprise me when I look at the clock and see that I only have one more segment to go. If you missed anything from today, you need to go back and listen to the Ben and Woods podcast live from 7 Mile Casino. I went and played some match game today on Annie and Elston, so you can listen to that. I believe it was at 12:45. I'm getting better-ish at the game. I'm going to have to continue to get better at the game. I believe I'm a revolving panelist. And then on our show, Gwen and Chris, if you would like to hear from Tony, he joined us from Korea at 4:35-ish. So if you want to listen to Tony talk about the game last night, you know what? I just remembered something. I was going to play you a clip of Tony talking about Jake Cronenworth and what happened with his glove. So here, let me get this not out of the way, but let's hear from Tony. And then I'm going to get back into some of the chats that are happening right now because we got a lot of stuff happening. But here is Chris. Chris asked Tony this. He said, I don't know that I've ever really seen a ball go through a glove like that. And Tony gave us his thoughts on everything that happened with the Jake Cronenworth play.
You know what? This happens. It happens often. And I would venture to say it happens a couple times a year. A ball goes through a glove, the webbing. You know, guys are attached to their gloves. You see how fast Crone was able to get a new one and be out there. He probably had that glove, but when you break a glove in after, you know, so much time and work spent on it, you're not, at first you're not expecting a ball to sizzle through the webbing like that. It's always a surprise, but you know, it's just an unfortunate bad luck for the Padres on that particular play, because Jake got a tremendous jump on that ball and was going to turn two. I have no doubt, and they would have got out that inning. Instead, that ball rolls. It's, you know, basically whips through that webbing, and you know, that kind of opened the floodgates a little bit.
It didn't kind of open the floodgates. It did open the floodgates, and the Dodgers go on to win 5-2 this morning. But tonight we got another game. This is the best thing about baseball is they play a lot, and they're going to be this matchup. I'm actually more excited about this pitching matchup tonight than I was about last night's pitching matchup or this morning's pitching matchup. I honestly don't really know what happened this morning, but I feel like it's Thursday, but it's not. It's Wednesday. Anyway, the pitching matchup tonight between Joe Musgrove and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I'm curious to see what Yamamoto does in his MLB debut. I'm curious to see what Joe does for the Padres to try to get them in the win column. And then they head back home from Korea. It would be nice for them to get a win so that they can have a happy flight home, but that's going to be a long flight home. They do get the jet stream on the way back, so maybe it's a little bit quicker. Maybe it's just a little bit quicker. Let's go to some of the chats from earlier. Patrick and Annie, sorry for pronouncing your last name, Higgle. Dude, you're becoming a responsible journalist. I guess I am. Yeah, I'm growing up in front of everybody's eyes and trying not to get myself fired from the radio for saying something that I shouldn't have said. So thank you for noticing about that. And McKee23, who I met this morning, very nice to meet you. We started talking about caves and stuff. It was great. Pete Rose must be licking his chops right now. I feel like Pete Rose must have been licking his chops ever since betting became a part of baseball. It's still crazy to me, but I digress on that one. Brutus fan says, I wish I was Otani's money manager so I could tune into the Daily Gambit. That would be a good place to go if you're Otani's money manager. Here, Chris and I and Tony make bets. You can take those. Let's see. Jax said, my daily gripe is when Otani bets on baseball. That's pretty good, but I'm not going to say he actually did yet. Also, we're talking about the NCAA tournament bracket sign up. EC Money says, is it on Yahoo, ESPN, CBS? It's on Yahoo. So again, go to Matt Skraby, MATTSKRAB as in boy Y. There is a QR code and there is also a link so you can sign up. Hopefully you can get in before 9 a.m. Let's see. There was a couple more I wanted to get to. Here's another joke from EC Money. No wonder Otani deferred his salary. All those side bets. Haha, that's funny. And then we have, I think, the entire sports industry kind of sold its soul to the devil being the gambling industry. You're not wrong there. You're definitely not wrong there, because you are, I mean, it's no different than them serving beer at the game, I guess. I want to make, I can hear people making arguments that it is different, but I don't really see that it is different, because you can bet in the ninth inning. You can't buy a beer in the ninth inning. So I guess they're taking control of alcohol sales a little bit more than they are betting. But here, Dan Buckingham, don't rush to judgment on anything. Need more facts. Absolutely 100% correct. You notice when we talked to Tony about this, again, Tony has taught me very well that I should not be commenting on things before I actually know all the facts. So that's what I'm going to do. Colleen said on YouTube, gambling is the hardest addiction to recover from. Now, I am not going to say anything's the hardest addiction to recover from, but to me, all addictions are hard to recover from, because obviously if you're in a place where you're to the point where your life is being affected by gambling or drinking or doing drugs, then you're in a bad spot, and it's going to be difficult no matter what to get out of that spot. But people can get out of that spot. There is gambling and Gamblers Anonymous. If you are sitting and listening to this right now and you think maybe I do have a gambling problem, or you have a gambling problem and you want to stop gambling, plenty of resources out there, and I encourage you to take up those resources, because there's no problem and there's no issue with you trying to get help for yourself. There's no issue. You're not a weak person for trying to get help. That's one of the things that sometimes I get in my DMs is, I tell them how I did it, how I turned my life around. And it doesn't seem like people are listening to the actual part that is the problem. So anyway, I feel like I've just lectured far too much on this whole thing. EC Money also says, Morejon is done. I'm tired of seeing him come out of the bullpen. Gives me Luis Garcia vibes. I feel this in a way. I don't really know that I'm ready to give up on Morejon just yet. Don't know that I'm ready to give up on him, because he's a lefty. He's had some, good points throughout his Padres career. He's been injured as well, so he's been battling through that. But I'm really not getting. I'm not giving up on him just yet. Wolfpack says video games are pretty hard. So basically, we're gonna talk about addiction tonight, and I'm fine with that, because it's true. Video games are also an addiction. Everything can become an addiction. It's about how you handle it. It's about how you recover from it. And I'm living proof of that, really. Let's see. Dominic says serving beer at the game, though, doesn't make questionable if games are on the up and up. Gambling does. Okay, I see that. But I'm more talking, Dominic. Dominic is saying that gambling causes questions about outcomes of games, which I understand, and alcohol does not do that. But at the same time, I think that I'm not talking about the players or anything like that. I'm talking about like people gambling and fans gambling. So I'm more talking about that part of addiction. Let's see. Did Ohtani's interpreter cut Jake's glove? We talked about it earlier. We did before we actually knew. Before we actually knew that this whole Ohtani thing was happening. We said that maybe he was doing a jig in the dugout, and someone then climbed into the Padres dugout and snipped the glove in the seventh inning. We were getting a little bit crazy. Earlier in the show, but then the actual story came out. Let's see. Brandon says, Skraby, how are you enjoying MLB The Show? Speaking of video games, have not been able to play it yet, because last night got home. I have a side job, and I was finishing up stuff for the side job. Yeah. When I go home, there's more work for Mr. Skraby, and I love doing my side job. It's just sometimes there's a lot of work, and so I can't play video games. I'm planning on getting into the video game thing this weekend with MLB The Show. I cannot wait to get into that. And there's this whole thing now. It's and I guess it's not new, but it's new to me because this is the first system and first MLB The Show I've bought in years and years and years. But you collect cards and you build a team through collecting cards. So I want to get in on that. Anthony says Prize Picks got me to gamble way more than I ever would have. It's so easy. Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. When you could just go on an app and you could just hit like over, under, or whatever, and that's how you make your bets. It's very easy. They want you to be able to gamble easily. They want to make it as user-friendly as possible. And I'm not coming down on people who do gamble, because there are people that are responsible gamblers and just do it for a little bit of fun. But they do want to make it as easy as possible for you to put money down and give them money, basically. So, all right, let's hear from Mike Schilt. Going into tonight's game, we don't have anything from him yet because it's still kind of early in Korea. But Mike Schilt was asked after the game about the 8th inning and about what happened during the 8th inning, and here's what he said.
We pitched our tail off to get to that point. Threw together a lot of at-bats, a lot of deep counts, ran through some guys. And, it's a 2-2 game. That's a double play ball. Goes through as well. We're still tied, maybe still playing. So, didn't go our way.
Yeah, it didn't go their way. But I guess as a fan, that answer kind of bothers me a little bit because we've all been looking forward to this game for a very long time. And yes, it's baseball. Yes, there's 161 more games. But I feel like there's something special about an opening day win, and especially when you have an opening, a league opening win. You're the first win of the season as MLB jumped all over with the Dodgers, basically saying they're going to go 162-0. So what do you think about that, everyone? But I would have obviously I would have liked to see the Padres win, and Mike Schilt is not going to lose his mind over one game, nor should he lose his mind over one game. Nor should I lose my mind over one game. And I will say, I'm not telling you what to do, but you should not lose your mind over one game. Now, one of the things we saw this morning was a lot of bullpen usage. And so Mike Schilt was asked after the game about that bullpen usage.
Listen, we're sitting there going for it. Got a 2-1 lead, take our shot at it. And tomorrow we got Joe and, King can, pitch as well, obviously. So we've got some length right there. And we've got some guys that we do think can come back based on pitch count. Not going to push guys. So we'll, take their temperature obviously tomorrow. And we still got some guys that didn't throw today, Kolick and, Suarez. And so we'll be back and ready to go.
All right. Well, I'm going to believe him. I'm still not real 100% sure, how to read Mike Schilt because we haven't had regular season Mike Schilt yet. So we're going to have to deal with that as it comes with the Mike Schilt stuff. All right. We're going to get to this.
What's annoying Skraby today? Let's find out. It's time for the Daily Gripe.
Chris gave me some wise advice last week, I think, and I've been trying to find out what my daily gripe is for the whole day. And it just actually came to me in the last break. But it's not really a gripe. It's more of a story, and it's kind of like it makes me a little frustrated because I deal with this with Chris all the time. But this morning I was taking the dogs for a walk, and I walked by the neighbor, and they saw me. And they know what I do for a living. And so the neighbors said, don't tell me what happened. Because I DVR'd it. I'm through 3 innings. Need to take the dog for a walk. I'm going to finish the other innings when I get back. But it's just so hard for me to know that Jake Cronenworth's mitt broke in the 8th inning. And this person is still smiling because the Padres are leading the game in their mind. And so I guess my daily gripe is, please don't put me in the position to not have to tell you what happened. Because it's going to make me feel bad. Knowing that I'm like, oh, yeah, I won't tell you. Oh, yeah, the Padres are winning. They're really good. Yeah. And then knowing that at some point they're going to watch the game and realize what happened at the end of the game. So that's my daily gripe. Sammy Lev, back with you at 2:05 a.m. for the second game against the Dodgers. Thanks to everybody who was with us today. Thanks to everybody who came down 7 Mile Casino. Have a great night, everyone.
Hey, Hey, it's Annie from